You can attack me all day, Congresswoman. Vice President JD Vance's voice cut through the stunned silence of the hearing room. His eyes locked on a pale and trembling Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But when you use a struggling family from Ohio as a prop for your political theater and then abandon them, you owe them more than an apology. The room held its breath, witnessing a political takedown so precise and personal it would be spoken of for years to come. The air in the congressional hearing room was thick with the self-important hum of Washington, D.C. cameras were perfectly positioned. Reporters leaned forward with pens poised, and the gallery was filled with a mix of staffers and citizens, all expecting the usual political theater. The topic was economic relief, but everyone knew the real show was the looming confrontation between Vice President JD Vance and Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. AOC, seated at the long, polished table, was in her element. She radiated a righteous fire, her voice ringing with passion as she launched her attack. Mr. Vice President, she began, her words dripping with condescension. I'm not sure if you remember the people from your home state, the real people, the working class families in Ohio who are struggling while this administration plays games. Vance sat perfectly still, his hands clasped on the table before him. He didn't interrupt. He simply watched her, his expression unreadable, which seemed to fuel her performance even more. They are being forgotten, she declared, her voice rising. But where this administration has failed, the people have stepped up. That's why I am so proud to endorse the American Workers' Aid Fund, a charity that does the work you refuse to do. It provides direct relief. No red tape, no bureaucracy. Just help for those who need it most. It is a testament to what we can achieve when we care about our fellow citizens, a concept I fear is foreign to you. She leaned back, a smug, satisfied look on her face. The room was with her. A ripple of applause came from her supporters in the gallery. She had landed a powerful blow, painting Vance as a heartless suit who had abandoned his own people. The trap was set. Vance finally leaned forward to his microphone. The room quieted, anticipating a defensive, bureaucratic response. They were wrong. Thank you, Congresswoman, he said, his voice calm and even. It was a chilling calm, the kind that precedes a storm. I'm very familiar with the American Workers' Aid Fund. In fact, I spent most of last night on the phone with a family from Ohio who knows the fund even better. A family from just outside Youngstown, the Millers. He paused. The name hung in the air. It was the first emotional blow, a simple personalization that shifted the ground beneath AOC's feet. This was no longer about policy. It was about people. The Millers, Vance continued, lost nearly everything when the river flooded last month. Their basement was destroyed, the foundation of their home compromised. They have 3 young children. Hearing you speak so passionately about this fund, they donated the last $200 they had in their savings, believing it was their only hope. AOC's smile faltered. She shifted uncomfortably in her seat. I'd like the committee and the American people to hear from Mr. Miller directly, Vance said. He nodded to an aide, and a moment later, a man's voice, raw, unsteady, and thick with emotion, filled the room from a small speaker. This was the second blow, the human receipt. We trusted her. The voice on the recording crackled. We saw her on TV, talking about this fund. Sounded like a miracle. So we gave what we had. When we applied for aid to fix our home, they denied us. We got an email, said we weren't the right kind of victim. What does that even mean? They took our money. They took our hope. My kids are sleeping on mattresses on the floor because our home isn't safe. She used us. She used our pain for a TV soundbite. And then her people threw us away like trash. The recording ended. A devastating silence fell over the room. A woman in the front row, a journalist for a major newspaper, let out an audible gasp. Another observer in the gallery quietly began to cry, wiping at her eyes with the back of her hand. The cameras, which had been on Vance, all swiveled to AOC. Her face was ashen. The righteous fire in her eyes had been replaced with wide-eyed panic. That is an outrage, she stammered, trying to regain control. That is a doctored tape, a fabrication. You are using this poor family to distract from your own failures. Vance didn't flinch. He let her frantic accusations hang in the air for a moment before delivering the third and most devastating blow of the emotional avalanche. A fabrication, you say? Vance's voice was now laced with a cold, hard anger. Then perhaps you can explain this. He gestured to the large screen behind him. A simple, brutal chart appeared. It was a breakdown of the American Workers' Aid Fund's expenditures. Donations received $4.20 million. Aid disbursed to families $410,000. Administrative and consulting fees $3.79 million. And who? Vance said, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous tone, received these consulting fees. A second slide appeared. It was a list of names, all prominent political allies and consulting firms associated with AOC and her inner circle. The gallery erupted in murmurs of shock and disgust. The reporters were typing furiously. This wasn't just a political scandal. It was a moral crime, a betrayal of the highest order. AOC was no longer a champion of the poor. She was the face of a scam that preyed on them. You talk about my record, Vance said, standing up slowly, his gaze pinning a speechless AOC to her chair. Let's talk about yours. You stood here and used the pain of my people, the people of Ohio, as a weapon against me. But it was worse than that. You weren't just using their pain for political theater. You were monetizing it. You were fundraising off their misery and handing the money to your friends in DC. He took a step forward, his voice resonating with the authority of a man who had caught his enemy red-handed. This family, the Millers, didn't need a lecture from you. They needed a dry basement. They needed a safe home for their children. And you took the last of their money and gave it to a political consultant in a skyscraper in Manhattan. AOC opened her mouth, but no words came out. She was utterly, completely defeated. The audience, which had once applauded her, now stared at her with open contempt. She had been exposed, not as a fighter, but as a fraud. The story exploded. Within the hour, it was the only thing on the news. The tear-filled audio of Mr. Miller was played on a loop. The chart showing the fund's expenditures was plastered across every screen. The public outrage was a tidal wave, and AOC was drowning in it. That evening, she was cornered into a live interview, her face pale and drawn. The host played Vance's final words from the hearing back to her. Congresswoman, the host asked, what is your response? Defeated, humiliated, and with nowhere left to hide, she finally broke. I am deeply sorry, she mumbled, looking down at her hands. I was misled about the nature of the fund. I apologize to the Miller family and to the Vice President for my accusations. It was a humiliating, forced retreat. Later that night, in a separate interview, Vance was asked if he accepted her apology. He looked directly into the camera, his expression somber but resolute. He delivered the final, unforgettable soundbite that would define the entire affair. You can attack me all day, Congresswoman, But when you use a struggling family from Ohio as a prop for your political theater and then abandon them, you owe them more than an apology. You owe them their money back. The battle was over. A politician's reputation was left in ruins, not by a political attack, but by the simple, heartbreaking truth spoken by a father trying to protect his family. Now, we turn it over to you. Was Vance's method of exposing the truth in such a public and dramatic way justified? Let us know your thoughts in the discussion below. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories of truth and consequences.